We mentioned earlier that if we've identified the potential threat at a distance and we're interacting with them, that we want to be standing with our feet parallel. Feet parallel is non-confrontational, and I'm still up to this point trying to de-escalate it, which is why I'm going to keep my hands open. But once they've gotten to that point where they are 6 feet or closer, or they're approaching that 6-foot range, I need to be prepared to defend myself. And in boxing, if you get squared up and you get hit on the nose, first place you're going is down to the ground and you're counting all the lights in the ceiling. So with my feet, I want to make sure that I get this fighter triangle we talked about before, where I get 1 foot out in front of me. Not to the point where I'm walking on a tightrope. This is bad too. But if I think about a square, I've got 1 foot at one corner of the square and the other foot at the opposite corner of the square. With that, I still have my hands in front of me, not closed. You know, there's a point in martial arts when you've been studying for a long time, you do push-ups on your knuckles to make your wrist strong, and you can punch with a closed fist. But primarily, if you haven't done a lot of training, striking with an open hand is going to be better for you, and I'm already there if my hands are out in front of me. On top of that, if there's the point where a camera, I'm telling you, this is the number one thing you're going to have to defend yourself with. This guy comes in with the camera, he's recording it right now. He didn't catch the beginning of it. He didn't see the guy assault you in the beginning. And if that camera's showing you standing like this, judge and jury looking at that video thinks you're the aggressive one. But on the other hand, if they see you like this, that judge and jury is going, well, that's a defensive position. If I'm punching, I'm going to have gashes and cuts on my knuckles. Those are offensive wounds. If I'm doing open hand strikes, I'm going to have the gashes and cuts on my palm, which is one of those things that they consider a defensive wound. So it doesn't look, even in my injuries, that I was the aggressor. It looks like I was the defender. Now, on top of that, I don't want to just stand in one spot. Hitting me while I'm just standing here like this is pretty easy. First of all, if I have my hands moving, that's a plus. But I also want to keep my feet moving so that I'm not having to fight two shoulders. I always want to be moving to one shoulder or the other. Now, one thing you want to be aware of is if I'm standing like this, and I want to move over this way, if I use my front foot first, I make an X. If I get hit right now, I'm going to have a hard time catching myself. So if I'm moving to the right, I'm going to move my right foot then my left foot as I'm moving around talking to this guy. If I need to move to the left, because maybe the exit is over this way, I'm going to be using my left foot then my right foot while I'm circling around to one shoulder so that maybe I can then turn and run towards the exit. So once I've had my stance in the right position, I've got my eyes on his hands and his waist. As soon as I see him reach back to throw that punch, I'm going to be ready to block. So let's talk a little bit about blocking. In martial arts, you spend a lot of time doing reaction training. If you're only thinking about self-defense once a year, once every 6 months, you're not going to have the reaction training or the number of push-ups to make yourself strong enough to actually block a punch. Odds are this guy's going to be bigger than you, and if you haven't trained and he throws that punch and your arm is too weak, you're going to end up hitting yourself. So if you watch a lot of professional fighting, boxing, MMA, they do a little bit of blocking, but what you see them do a majority of the time is covering up the part that's getting hit. And you'll see from this position, with my hands up, it's a pretty short distance to bring my hands next to my head. Let me show you something about an opponent. I want to show you the general problem with blocking a punch. I have to do some really quick calculations of what's the momentum and angle of that fist, and then how to get my hand in the way. Which is easy if you've been training for a long time, but all it takes is me blocking a little bit too early and I get hit. Or me blocking at the wrong angle and I get hit. If you look at his hand is coming this way, if my hand is also going this way, he's going to end up catching my hand, my arm instead. One of the advantages of bringing my hand next to my head is it puts my bony, pointy part towards him. If he punches that elbow, that's really going to hurt his hand. If he's doing this big smack coming around me, if I just try to stop it, he's still going to smack me. But on the other hand, if he reaches over and I just put my arm up, he can hit me really hard. My hand and my arm is going to take most of that force. And now that I'm here, I've got this other hand that I can use for striking. He can even swing with that hand, I can block, and I can strike with the same hand. Now, initially, there's this flinch response. You get a spider in front of you or somebody doing this to you, there's a tendency to bring your hands up. We're going to use that. But what we're going to do is take our hand right next to us and we're going to pin it to the side of our head. That way, if he slaps me, he's punching and slapping my hand, not the soft muscles of my face or the weak bones of my face. So the idea is, as he throws the punch, I follow it there, and I just bring the hand up. On the other hand, he can keep wailing on this. You'll see boxers, they're standing in the ring, they're covering up on both sides, they're just taking a heck of a punishment, and then they punch back and they knock the guy out. So that's one of the keys. Once I've covered up, I don't want to cover up like this with my eyes closed, because now I'm not going to see the target. When he's punching at me, whichever hand moves, I'm going to be covering to block it. I'm going to cover to block it, but then I'm going to be ready to do another strike afterwards. That's the advantage of covering. I can cover one side. I can cover the other side. I can cover both sides, but notice how my eyes are looking right between my turtle shell. Besides blocking, we're also going to need some offensive techniques, some striking ability. And with my hand, the best way to strike is going to be with an open hand, the palm. It's going to cause less damage to me, and I can still deliver plenty of damage to my opponent. Some people teach doing this palm strike with an open hand. I'm going to teach this with the fingers being closed. It's going to cause less ability of your fingers getting caught in clothes or somebody's lip, or less danger to your fingers this way. When you're striking with this palm, you want to be hitting with right the heel of the palm, right where it lines up with my forearm. If I strike with this top part of my hand, I can end up injuring my wrist. You're not trying to high-five his face. And it works perfectly if I have my hands up already, because then when I go to make this strike, I can just bend my fingers a little bit, and that's going straight out. Now, there's different places I could do this strike. The nose, we talk about this. I strike the nose. It can be very effective. His eyes water up. It'll cause blood to come out. Somebody sees their own blood. It's a little demoralizing. However, same thing, I did draw his blood. If I don't know this person, that could be a whole other bag of worms that we opened up there. So besides that, some people might say strike the face. Well, you know what? There's teeth there. So we're kind of at a disadvantage with doing striking to the head, because there are some things going on. Now, if I hit him in the chin, this can be very effective because it's sending his head backwards. Especially if he's in the middle of talking. He's saying, I'm going to punch you right in the, and his mouth is open. You do that, you're going to make him bite his tongue. You could break the teeth. And in that case, that's injury to him and no injury to you. That's the way you want to do it. Soft targets to hard areas. He was showing me all these threat indicators, and then he tells me I'm going to punch you in your, it doesn't matter what he was going to say after that, I should be ready to defend myself. So besides, really, if we're talking about striking the face, nose, being okay, it can be good. Mouth, definitely not. It's got teeth. You could go for the eye. That's a good spot. The chin is good, but boy, that's not too far away from the mouth. One really good place I could be placing that palm strike that's actually going to get me some distance is going to be right to his chest, right to his stomach. Yeah, not the top meaty part of the chest, but the little hollow spot right above the stomach and right below the chest muscles. Either way, when you're doing the strike, if I'm going to be striking the head, I don't want to be striking the surface. I want to be going past his head. I want to be striking back here. His face is just what's getting in my way. Same thing, if I'm going to be striking to his chest, I'm aiming for behind him. It's just his chest gets in my way, and that's what's going to create some space. I did that as a push. You can do that same thing. He's coming in close to me. I can use my hands to push him away and keep my distance. That's pretty non-aggressive. I had to do a push different than doing a punch. Somebody in a court sees on the videotape that I pushed him away or that I punched him. That's going to read two different ways to the jury. So now you have another option too besides using your hands. Your hands are good because you think about how often do you use them. You use them to write, you use them to eat, brush your hair, brush your teeth. But what if he's raining down blows on me? As soon as I take my guard away, he's going to hit me on the side that I'm striking on. So you also have the ability while you're covering up to be able to use your legs. Now, if we do really high kicks, he's going to grab a hold of my feet, especially if you're not trained in kicking. But if he's focused up here slapping you in the head, he's not thinking about what's happening down there. And that knee strike doesn't have to be accurate. If I knee strike him in the leg, even though that might not take him out of the fight, that's going to cause him to change his mind. He's thinking down here. Now that he's covering up his leg or covering up his groin, now I can strike to the face a lot easier. If I go a little higher and I hit him in the stomach, or if I even hit him in the ribs, a broken rib, hitting over in the liver, these are all things that you don't have to hit very hard to cause a lot of pain. Now remember, we're not going to knock this guy out in one blow. So we're going to want to kind of use our combinations together. If he's coming up and he's hitting on me and I'm covering up, I might start with one of these. I'm going to go for a couple high, then I'm going to go for a couple more down low. As soon as he is no longer an issue, like maybe he's falling down to the ground, or he's covering up and backing off, and he's created now more distance from me, I'm going to take the opportunity to escape. It's not a boxing match or an MMA match that I'm going to win $100,000 at the end of this. I possibly could lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in a lawsuit after this. So I don't want to stand here and fight the guy. I want to get out of there and start thinking about what am I going to tell the police? What were my indicators that brought me down this path where I felt like I had to start hitting him and kneeing him? My main thing is I have to get away, because if I stand here and fight the guy, there is a very real chance that I can now change and be the aggressor. I get into my lizard brain because this person was trying to hurt me. I'm in self-defense mode. If I stay here and continue to fight, I could end up being the one in trouble instead of getting away to safety. And that's ultimately the key. Get away to safety. Don't just go outside and start yipping and yapping out in the parking lot, because guess who's coming out into the parking lot, and he's probably going to have a weapon with him this time. Get out to your car, get in the car, get home, call the police and tell them what happened. That way, if he goes and makes a report, they've got your side of the story too. And that's the last point I want to bring you up to, is the tactic of using that phone. Generally speaking, the first person that calls the police are the one the police are going to side with. If the bad guy calls the police first and says, hey, I was just assaulted by this guy, police are coming to look for you. But if you call the police first, hey, I was just assaulted, I had to use my self-defense, I got out of there, I'm back at home right now and I'm talking to you about this. They're going to be able to take your story, you're going to be able to give them the serious events and list off all the attack indicators you recognized earlier. Now that we've implemented a couple of techniques, and maybe he's out of the fight, I'm not out of the fight. I am still continuing my self-defense. So going back over this scenario, I was in the grocery store. I noticed this guy was acting funny, walking down another aisle. He's looking at me. He's giving me some attack indicators. Maybe I push my shopping cart out in front of me. He gets past the shopping cart. He's on top of me and hitting me. I'm covering up. I'm hitting him back. So now that I've got him eliminated from it and I'm fleeing, I'm thinking about my zones again. What's on me? Zone A. What's on me? Zone B. What's around me? Do I need to grab my kid before I leave? Do I need to go tell my wife, hey, we need to get out of here. I was just in a fight. Don't forget that companion. Don't forget that companion. Once I leave, my plan changes. My zone 1 is still on me, but now my zone 2 isn't the inside of the store. It's the outside of the store. And I've got to be aware of what's going on out there too. He might have accomplices out there that are going to be coming after me. And if I'm just running away and not paying attention to them, I could be running right into them and running into trouble. There might be other obstacles in the parking lot that are between you and where your car is at. You want to be aware of those, because instead of them stopping you, you might be able to use them against your attackers. Once you make it to the destination you were running away to, now remember, I want to make this point because I just said the wrong phrase, running away. You don't really want to run away, you want to run to. You want to run to something, not just blindly running away. Running to your car, running to a police officer, running to some kind of help, getting to home. You run away to hide in the bush, they're probably going to find you, you're not out of trouble. So you've gone outside, you've done your zone 2 assessment, okay, my companion is still with me, I don't see any accomplices outside, I'm running to my car. You get to your car, guess what? Your zones have changed. Time for a new plan. Do I have my keys on me? No. Zone 1. I'm inside the car, my zone 2 is getting that car started. First of all, what tools do I have in there? Maybe sometimes you keep a self-defense tool in your car for just such an occasion. Do you have all your companions with you in the car? My zone 3 now changes to the blocks around me. What's my best way of traffic to get out of here in case this guy's going to try to follow me? Do you drive directly home if he is following you, or do you drive another destination? Maybe if you're really scared and they are following you, you drive to the police department. Police department or a hospital, those are two safe places you can drive that they probably won't follow you to because there's a lot of security cameras and usually police officers in both locations. Nowadays especially, they love using those security cameras to track movement, so anywhere you can be seen on a video camera is definitely going to help the police, even if you do go missing. So to summarize, we're going to come up with other videos where we're going to give you more tactics and some extra skills and everything that you can use. Our intent in this video is just talking about the importance of a plan and how to put that plan together. If you are interested in seeking more in-depth martial art training, we highly recommend that you go out and find a school in your area. Pretty much you need to know that your techniques work, and the only way you do that is by pressure testing it. Besides getting into regular training, if you just want to do one-time seminars, there's a lot of schools out there that do that, and I would treat that kind of like a first aid course, where every year, every couple of years, you want to go back and re-up that information. You know, a lot of times details change, just like in first aid, these details change, and if you don't stay current on it, then the emergency happens and you won't have the most current information. But still, I would say even if you have that outdated information, that's better than no information. Yeah, having some way to be able to increase your coordination and your strength. That's what a lot of martial arts is about. If you're interested in studying from us or setting up a self-defense seminar for you and some friends or family members, you can find information on that at dojou.com.